Picture a single online petition gathering more signatures than the entire population of Florida. That's essentially what just happened in world football, and it has nothing to do with an election, a referendum, or a court case. It's about one team, Argentina. In under a week, more than 23 million people signed their name to a petition demanding Argentina be banned from the World Cup. Not a one-match ban, not a fine. Banned permanently from ever competing in the tournament again. If you've been following FIFA 2026, you already know Argentina and Spain just played one of the most talked about finals in tournament history. But somewhere in the last few days, this stopped being about a single football match. It turned into one of the largest petitions ever recorded on the internet, one that came within striking distance of a world record that stood since the 1990s. So how does a football rivalry spiral into something this size? And once you have 23 million signatures, does it actually mean anything inside FIFA's rulebook, or is it just noise? Let's get into it. Let's set the scene first. On July 19th, Spain beat Argentina 1-0 in the World Cup final at New York, New Jersey Stadium, with substitute Ferran Torres scoring deep into extra time to settle it. Argentina played almost the entire second half a man down after Enzo Fernandez picked up a second yellow card and somehow still dragged the match into extra time without registering a shot on target in 90 minutes. Goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez turned in one of the great World Cup final performances, breaking the record for saves in a championship match, but it wasn't enough to get Argentina over the line. Spain claimed their second World Cup title, adding to the one they won back in 2010. And for Lionel Messi, at 39 years old, it may have been the final World Cup match of his career. Spain's win also came with some quiet history attached. They allowed just one goal across all 8 matches, a record for the fewest goals conceded by a champion, and combined with the Spanish women's title from 2023, that makes Spain the first nation to hold both World Cups at the same time. Remember, too, this is the first 48-team World Cup, co-hosted across the US, Canada, and Mexico, and marketed from day one as the biggest tournament in the sport's history. A controversy this size, hitting a stage that large, was always going to travel fast. That result alone would have been a massive story on its own, but almost immediately a petition titled "Argentina Out" started climbing, hosted on an independent website with no official ties to FIFA or any football federation. It set an initial target of 5 million signatures. Organizers figured that was ambitious enough. By the time the petition closed, right after the full-time whistle on Argentina's tournament, it had collected 23,316,108 signatures from roughly 170 countries. That's not a typo. Over 23 million people from almost every corner of the globe backing the same message. Before we go any further, if this kind of deep dive into what's actually happening behind the World Cup headlines is useful to you, go ahead and hit subscribe now. It genuinely helps the channel keep covering every twist of this tournament as it happens. Here's where things get interesting. A petition of that size doesn't come out of nowhere. It's built on weeks of accumulated frustration, and most of it traces back to 2 separate incidents that had nothing to do with the scoreline. The first happened after Argentina's semi-final win over England on July 15th. Moments after securing a dramatic 2-1 comeback victory in Atlanta, players including Lisandro Martinez and Giovanni Lo Celso unveiled a banner declaring the Falkland Islands belonged to Argentina. It's a message tied directly to the 1982 war between Argentina and the UK, a conflict that cost hundreds of lives on both sides. FIFA opened a formal investigation into the celebration almost immediately, citing its rules against political and provocative displays inside stadiums. In the UK, the reaction went well beyond football, with the Prime Minister publicly backing calls for FIFA to look into it. This isn't actually new territory for Argentina. Back before a previous World Cup cycle, the federation was fined by FIFA's disciplinary committee for displaying the exact same banner before a warm-up friendly. So there's precedent here for how these cases usually resolve. The bigger question this time is whether a celebration that happened live, on the pitch, inside a knockout match at the biggest World Cup ever staged gets treated the same way as a pre-tournament friendly once did. The second incident happened seconds after the final whistle in the championship match itself. Footage circulating online appeared to show Argentina's Nahuel Molina squaring up to Spain captain Rodri, followed by a scuffle involving Argentina's Leandro Paredes and Spain's Eric Garcia and Gavi, with Argentina's assistant coach also appearing to strike Spain's Dani Olmo. For a few confusing minutes, broadcasters even reported that Paredes had been sent off for his part in it, though FIFA later confirmed no card was actually shown on the pitch. Add in widely shared footage of much of the Argentina squad turning away as Spain lifted the trophy, and it's not hard to see how the online mood turns so fast. But that's only part of the story, because the petition itself makes a much bigger accusation than just player conduct after the whistle. If you're finding this useful, this is a good moment to tap subscribe too, since we'll be tracking every update as FIFA's investigations move forward, and you won't want to miss how this plays out.
The Argentina Out petition doesn't just criticize how Argentina's players behaved, it accuses FIFA and the match officials of favoring Messi and Argentina throughout the tournament, essentially arguing that the outcome felt decided before a ball was even kicked. That's a serious claim, and it's worth being clear about exactly what a petition like this can and can't actually do. This matters because, structurally, an online petition carries zero authority inside FIFA's disciplinary system. There's no clause anywhere in FIFA's rulebook that lets public signatures suspend or expel a national team from competition. Disciplinary action only ever starts through formal investigations into things like ineligible players, discrimination, match manipulation, or breaches of the code of conduct, and those investigations are already underway, just not because of the petition. FIFA's disciplinary committee has appointed a disciplinary and ethics prosecutor to look into the post-final brawl, working through match reports, delegate reports, and broadcast footage before any ruling. If investigators determine that a player intentionally struck an opponent, that gets classified as violent conduct, which carries an automatic minimum 3-match suspension. Paredes could be facing the steepest consequences here, since he was involved in separate incidents with 2 different Spain players, and FIFA has the option to treat each one individually rather than as a single moment of chaos. The bigger issue is that the Falklands banner case and the post-final brawl are being investigated completely separately, so even a firm ruling on one doesn't resolve the other. Historically, football's governing bodies have leaned toward fines and formal warnings for political displays, rather than suspensions, though suspensions aren't unheard of either. Spain's own captain, Rodri, actually served a 1-match ban after leading chants about Gibraltar following a win at the 2024 Euros, so there is a real precedent for players being sidelined over political statements, not just fined for them. It's also worth asking why this particular petition spread the way it did, when plenty of controversial World Cup moments over the years never came close to this kind of number. Part of it is simply the size of the audience watching. A 48-team tournament spread across 3 host countries, with matches airing across multiple continents and time zones, means a controversial celebration or a post-match scuffle gets seen, clipped, and shared by a far bigger pool of viewers than any previous World Cup could offer. Add in a fan base already primed to compare Messi's Argentina to Maradona's Argentina, and you have the conditions for something to catch fire fast. As for the petition itself, its scale came remarkably close to football colliding with one of the biggest crowdsourced campaigns in internet history. It landed just under 1 million signatures short of the record held by the 1997 Jubilee 2000 campaign, a global push for developing nations' debt relief that gathered roughly 24 million names. Think about that for a second. A football grievance nearly matched a worldwide humanitarian campaign in signature count, and it did it in under a week. For Messi personally, the storm around this petition has almost overshadowed what might be the final chapter of his international career. He came into the final chasing a second straight title and a shot at the tournament's golden boot, and left with neither, as Kylian Mbappe finished ahead of him in the scoring race. It's a strange footnote for a player of his stature, watching a petition about his team dominate headlines instead of his own performance.
Reaction inside Argentina has genuinely split down the middle. Argentina's Football Association president posted a statement after the final acknowledging that Spain were simply the better side on the day and won it fair and square, a notably measured response given everything swirling around the team. Argentina's own president took a very different tone online, dismissing the criticism entirely and framing it as other countries being envious of Argentina's success, even posting a photo of himself in an Argentina shirt to make the point. Spain's own head coach has also spoken publicly since the final, pushing back on Argentina's conduct in the immediate aftermath of the match. Meanwhile, a much smaller counter-petition has picked up steam from the Argentina side, this one demanding the final be replayed entirely. It accuses the match referee and his officiating team of favoring Spain, and it's gathered close to 100,000 signatures. That's tiny next to the Argentina out number, but it's a clear sign the anger runs in both directions depending on which side of this rivalry you're standing on. What do you think? Does a petition like this actually reflect genuine football opinion, or is it mostly noise from people who were never going to be Argentina fans in the first place? So what actually happens next? Realistically, don't expect Argentina to be banned from anything. FIFA simply has no mechanism for that, petition or no petition. What's far more likely is a mix of fines and possible short suspensions tied to the two active investigations already in motion. Best case for Argentina, the prosecutor concludes the post-final brawl was mutual and chaotic rather than one-sided, resulting in fines and warnings instead of bans. And the Falklands banner case ends the way similar cases usually have, with a financial penalty and a formal reprimand rather than a competitive sanction. Worst realistic case, FIFA rules that Paredes and Molina committed violent conduct, triggering suspensions that could cost them the start of the next World Cup qualifying cycle, while the banner investigation results in separate bans for the players who held it, stacking a second disciplinary headache directly on top of the first. There's also a reputational angle FIFA can't ignore. This tournament has already faced its share of scrutiny over ticket pricing, empty seats in some venues, and the general business side of running a World Cup this size. A slow or inconsistent response to a genuine brawl involving multiple national team players is exactly the kind of story that adds to the perception that discipline takes a back seat to the spectacle. Whatever FIFA decides, it will be read by fans as a signal of how seriously the organization takes conduct once the trophy has already been handed out. Either way, this whole episode says something about where the World Cup is right now. A tournament built to be the biggest in the sport's history is generating conversations that go far beyond the scoreline, and FIFA is going to be under real pressure to show it can actually enforce its own rules, not just talk about them once the cameras move on. Before we wrap up, if you want to see exactly how FIFA rules on both of these cases the moment it happens, subscribing is the easiest way to make sure it lands in your feed instead of you finding out about it days later. So here's where things stand right now. A record-chasing petition with over 23 million signatures, real FIFA investigations into a political banner, and a post-final brawl. A legend's international career possibly ending on a genuinely controversial note, and a fan base split between wanting Spain's win celebrated and wanting the final replayed entirely. None of it changes the scoreline. Spain are world champions, but the fallout from this final might end up shaping how FIFA handles political statements and player conduct at every tournament that follows it.